That's for sure. It'll be something. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So, I'm Patricia Kennedy, and I'm with Kennedy Effect, where we help professional women get their dream job, gain confidence to ask for that salary increase, even negotiate better salaries, and finally get the recognition that they deserve without having to go back to school in a lot of cases. And today, for our live stream, I'm joined by Coralee Zueff, author and owner of Five Star Service Advisor. And when I tell you folks that you can have it all, here is a living example because Coralee is doing it all. So, welcome, Coralee, and thanks for joining the live stream today.
Pat, thank you for having me on today.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
hmm
So, I have a whole bunch of questions to ask you that I think are going to be meaningful for all people in any whatever walk of career, whatever wherever they are in their career. And I wanted to start to hone in on some questions, though. In the tech industry, that's where I've come from. In the US, 19% of software developers are women. So they're outnumbered by men, and many of us have experienced some setbacks in our career and even discrimination, although it may not be outright. And there's been progress in my lifetime, but not enough. I've got two daughters, and I want to make sure we have a more equal opportunity workplace for them when they do get out into the workforce. And so I wanted to just ask you about the pain of working in a male dominated industry, which is the automotive industry, which you're in.
hmm I'll try to squeeze everything I have to say into a few minutes here. Actually, just before this, I met with a group of lady scuba divers. I think we're the island mermaids, as we're calling ourselves, and they had a lot to talk on the subject as well. So a lot of people in this group felt like being in a male dominated industry, whether it be the tech industry or automotive or even scuba diving guides, for example, women generally feel, or another one's in healthcare as well, like a doctor, as most surgeons apparently are male. It makes them feel that you have to work twice as hard. If the guys are carrying 10 scuba tanks, you need to move 20 of them to prove yourself. I'm fortunate I've never had that feeling before in my industry, but or felt discriminated against while at my workplace, the time I'm feeling it is when I'm going for the job. I felt like I've constantly been turned down for a position just because of my gender. And it's something that I usually forget. Like if I stay at a job long term, 5, 7 years, when I'm going back out into the workforce, oh my goodness, I'm sorry.
No worries.
There we
Still
are.
alive.
Oh, there we are. Yes, that's right. And these things do happen, right? Um, so when I'm going for a job, knowing that I don't know who could be more experienced than myself with 20 years in the automotive industry, and constantly getting turned down. I've actually been turned down for a position, or it seemed like when I was looking for a job at the time, there was this other guy who must have been really well spoken of, and he kept getting these jobs that I was applying for. I'd apply and they'd hire this guy, and I'd go on to the next one. And I don't think he didn't last more than a few weeks at the jobs that he got. But then he'd get this next one over me too. And I was dumbfounded. So I always like to say that I'm not the first person who gets chosen, but I'm the last person that gets chosen and the best choice.
That's true. That's awesome. So, do you feel like it's impacted your career?
Um, I would say probably. It's yes and no. I guess for positions that I thought were right for me and that I should get, I didn't get. But I guess that shows that they weren't for me, and they didn't want somebody perhaps of my gender. They're telling them what to do. Or with this experience level, I find that if they're looking for somebody inexperienced that they can boss around.
Yeah.
And so I guess I've missed out on some opportunities that I thought would be a good fit because the hiring group thought not.
Yeah. Yeah. There is McKinsey and Company has a survey. It's actually, they survey tons of companies every year, and they are talking about, in the particular survey, the questions are asked around gender discrimination, pay differences, and all these sorts of things. And we're still not where we need to be. But what happens to women is that, if you think about the corporate ladder, well, for women, there's missing rungs. We can't even get on the ladder sometimes. So if we're discriminated against in terms of getting a job in the first place, or maybe going for that managerial role that goes to the man, or, whatever the case may be, we have to prove ourselves. We have to do all those backflips and jumping through hoops and all the things to make sure that we get considered, or to prove our worth, which is unfortunate. I wish things were different in this day and age. So women come to me all the time in this situation, and there are strategies that I help work with. I help women to work with to do better. So folks, if you find yourself in this situation, please book a call with me, and I'm going to put the way that you can reach out and contact me in the chat soon. Another area I wanted to talk and ask you questions around, Coralee, is there's times when I've worked in situations, and a lot of women who come to me have this similar situation happen, where a manager doesn't appreciate what they're offering in terms of advice, or sometimes just kind of shuts them down, even when that your experience and what you're bringing to the table can help benefit the company. So tell me about any situations where you've found yourself in a similar scenario.
The most recent one I can think of is a lot of places when you have paperwork that when a customer arrives at a shop to have work done, you should be able to input everything into the computer, what they are getting, then print off an estimate to get the customer to sign it that has a price that would be after including parts, labor, shop supplies, and taxes. I am surprised how many places haven't input this system into practice. So when you go in, they're still handwriting, like, okay, an oil change will be, $98. Then we got to add the 12% tax here, and then add the 12% of shop supplies onto maybe this $45 of labor, and add that all up in front of the customer. It's completely unprofessional, I feel. In 2021, we should be able to just print something off with accurate pricing. Two, it's very time consuming for the service advisor and nerve-wracking when they have the customer in there. And three, it leaves room for human error. Like, I understand the concept of adding all this stuff up, but having to do that on top of everything else seems very unnecessary. And I'm sure the customer is expecting being able to, completely order, having pizza on your phone and have it delivered to your door without talking to anybody. If you can do that, why can't this company be able to have accurate pricing?
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. I mean, there's so much productivity lost, not to mention the errors that you talked about. So it doesn't make sense, as you said, in this day and age. And I know that, well, so have you made suggestions, and how was it received?
Yeah, so I have suggested this. Now, this is actually one of the criteria for when I'm working with businesses now, is this needs to be in place before we'll even look at any other aspect of the service advisor's job and how we can improve it. They need to have accurate pricing before we're going to move any further with them. So when I was in the workforce and suggesting this to management, it sort of met with the idea like, well, this is just the way it is. And the last place that management would say, the last place I was at too, this is how it was. So that's just the way it is. And this is how you do it.
That's a shame. They
Hmm.
really are not, it doesn't make sense. And there's so many better strategies to implement. So it's,
Hmm.
it's, I guess now that you have your own business, and maybe you could tell us a little bit about how you transitioned into having your own business, and you're an author. So tell us more about that.
Sure. Or how about I tell you the reasons how, what I was sort of experiencing before I got into this one, um, and then how the book came about. So first off, having um, I'd been offered management positions before, like you mentioned, and it might be for somebody, but you could see how sort of middle management, then you're in between and you're always the person handling all the problems. And there's sort of a stereotypical, you can see the male in their 50s that's putting in like 10, 12 hours a day, and they're handling all the problems and they're just so stressed. You can see it on their face. I didn't want that for myself, and it actually breaks my heart seeing these these people stuck in that bad position. So that was one, motivating factor to starting my business, to be able to help them, but not while breaking my own back. The other one is I have not so young children now. And while they don't need my care all the time, I'd still like to enjoy spending time with them, being able to go to their events that are coming up. Or to pick them up if need be, and sporting stuff, and just to be able to spend time with them. So if there was a spontaneous thing that we wanted to do, then I don't need to ask for permission. So that was another big motivational factor with starting my own company. And the third one is I have the ability to sort of look at a shop, dealership, garage, all these different terms, if you're independent or a chain or a dealership, and to see where their inefficiencies are. And I found that I've been able to make more improvement coming from the outside in rather than the bottom and up, trying to make these suggestions. So it's really worked well.
That's fantastic. And it's just, I think a lot of people are fearful of stepping out and trying to start their own business. But what you just shared is really an important piece. You are extremely smart. You've got a lot to offer, and you know how to improve the way that these companies are running their businesses. And so to gain clarity or gain credibility, you've got the clarity, but to be able to share that with those clients, coming in as a consultant, a paid consultant, and really coaching them on their business and ways in which they can improve is a huge bonus to them. And, it's really funny because like you were saying, sometimes when you're in a role and you're trying to give advice or trying to make processes better, you're not listened to as much as an outside consultant who can walk in the door, make the same recommendation, and get paid a lot more money. So
Hmm.
that's really wonderful that you did that. And then your book, do you want to just tell us about your
Oh,
book?
yes. Yeah, I have that here. So I had some health challenges, probably due to the amount of work that I was doing and not taking care of myself. About 5 years ago, had some health challenges where I had to take a step back. But I took my time, and let's see here.
Just a
Oh,
little closer.
maybe I have to put it
There it
right
is, right
there.
there.
Okay, it
Perfect.
has to be with me. So it's called 5-Star Service Advisor, and it's how to communicate with customers and technicians to decrease conflict and increase profit. So I spent about 4 years putting together the list of all my criteria, like how from initially talking to the customer on the phone to delivering their vehicle, any challenges that you may have with coworkers, and packed it into one book. And it's now my blueprint for the course that I offer.
That's really wonderful. And I
Mhm.
also heard through the grapevine that your book was a number one seller on Amazon. Tell us more.
Oh yes, that was exciting too, because the publisher that I was working, or who was helping me out, and I did a course with her. We kind of had it set for the steps to be able to make it online or a number one bestseller on Amazon, but days before then, it just accidentally became a bestseller. I went to check on it one day. I said, whoa, it's a bestseller in the Kindle, the print, and just those two formats. So that was really exciting. That was a really, I guess, solidified that there was a need for this knowledge to get out there.
Yeah, no accident. It's spot on. You're giving the right information to the right people. So I can imagine your business is booming. That's very exciting.
Yes, for sure. I love meeting and talking to new people, and everybody has a little bit of a different challenge and figuring out the best way to solve it for them.
So let's talk about home, work and life balance. I think that this is a big area where a lot of women struggle because we as women generally take on all the tasks of the children and the household, in addition to trying to go, work and do all the things that we need to do. And it leaves little time for even career planning. And that's what I help a lot of women to create strategies around and create a better work-life balance. And so they can focus more at work and at home. Tell us how you have transitioned and how you have created a better work-life balance for you.
I'd say first off, figuring like what's important, like spending time with the family, and then also making sure that I'm taking care of my health, because then I'm not good to anybody or to do anything without that. So I have my list of things that I need to do. And then being able to spend time with the kids and their activities and not having to ask a boss for permission. Please, boss, may I be able to go watch my kids' concert today? And, oftentimes it could be met with, well, like a Cinderella kind of thing where, sure, you can if you complete all these unrealistic tasks. So that was a motivational one. Also, hopefully when COVID and everything is done, then being able to go away for a weekend with my husband, because that's been, sort of put off as well, is very important, making sure that aspect is healthy as well. And then also I have activities that I like to participate in. So like just got back from scuba diving. So, if the weather is good and there's somebody who's able to go, it'd be nice to just be able to pick up and go rather than, having to decline. Yes,
that makes so much sense. And some of the women that come to me also, when they are, in a position where they're thinking about wanting to become a manager, and maybe not in customer facing situations, and maybe just more responsibility where they don't have to do the customer facing kind of things, challenges that I think in the service industry, it's more prevalent. And they find that their belief is that they can't have it all, and that if they go into management, that they are going to lose themselves and they're going to be as unhappy as that manager you described. But it doesn't always have to be that way. And that's some of the things that I work with women on, in terms of being able to manage and to set boundaries and to really get clear on what's important to them, so that they have a healthy balance in their lives and are still moving up that ladder, right, to become managers. Because I do believe that it's possible. Have you found that to be true?
I was just thinking too, like at the beginning of the conversation when I mentioned, the dive master who's carrying 20 cylinders, as to try to prove that they're better than the males who are only carrying 10, and that's not necessary. So I'm guessing if there is somebody I guess you'd be able to help someone figure out if this is realistic or if it's something that they just feel they need to do and not what's expected of them. And then as it would be taken away from another aspect of their life.
Yeah, that's a good call out, because we feel, I think a lot of times, we feel like we have to prove in order to be taken seriously. We go overboard and we work all these hours and we, are doing all these crazy things, and no wonder we get sick. Like that happened to me too. So, and I hear it from a lot of women, because trying to do everything is impossible and unrealistic, and it takes a toll on our health. So I totally agree with that.
Oh,
Yeah.
good. So if somebody is having that issue with themselves, then that would be something that you'd be able to sort out for them if it's actually a realistic thing or not. And if there's an end to that, because I understand, like, with starting a business, you do need to put more time in than your 40 hours, but there is a end goal in mind. It's like, I need to get this set up to be able to, I need to go from here to here. And that would be how you do that, as opposed to constantly putting in these extra hours, running on the treadmill and getting nowhere.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's exactly what I do. So we take a look at what is happening in that particular environment. And usually, and most frequently, it's we have to think differently about work and the things that are important to us, and then learn to do all these other things that will, create a strategy for yourself to be able to make sure that you hold to the boundaries that you want to put in place to protect your work-life balance. And you can move up the ladder and you can take on more responsibility. And a lot of times, when you do rise up the ranks, you start to realize, it does get a little easier because I can delegate. And it's
Mm-hmm.
learning how to do that, right? And learning how to be an effective leader. So those are things that I do help women with to progress themselves, and whether or not they want to move up the corporate ranks in the organization in which they're in, or find a new job, or like you, I mean, you've done it and it's so exciting. Step out and start your own business because you're more effective and probably making more money doing that, and being able to have this amazing work-life balance where you can have it all. So that's very impressive.
Thank you. Yes, it's definitely a work in progress and still have goals, but it's exciting.
Yeah, and it is hard. There's no doubt about it. But it's very worthwhile.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the most important thing, to just make sure that you figure out what you want to do with your life and go for it, because this is our only shot, right? We get one life. This is it.
Mm-hmm.
So make it the
Yeah, for
best.
sure.
Make it the best. All
Mm-hmm.
right. Well, Coralee, thank you so much for your time today. I think it's really helpful for a lot of our audience to hear that you can have it all. And you're a great example of that. So, how can audience members reach out to you if they need help in the service industry?
Okay. Well, my book is available on Amazon, and I do have a free Facebook group where I do my own lives and other posts in there as well, and people put questions up, and we have lots of fun members. Um, so you could you could type in 5-star service advisor and find me on Amazon, or 5-star service advisor on Facebook.
And I'll make sure to put the links into the chat so that people can find you. And for me, if you are finding that you're having challenges about your work-life balance at work, or being able to get on that ladder to move up the ranks, or just anything in general with respect to thinking about a career strategy, book a call with me too. You can reach out to me at Kennedy Effect /apply and schedule a conversation. And if it's not a fit, that's okay, because it'll be the best 45 minutes you spend on your career. So thank you so much again, Coralee. I am so excited to have you on the live with me today. And I look forward to folks reaching out to both of us to get more information. And thanks, everyone. And we'll talk again soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Pat.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.